Good evening. Welcome back to Connections, where you will get real voices, real stories, and real roots. Today, I want to introduce you to William Blackwell, William Blackwell II, as a matter of fact, for joining me in conversation today. And he will be talking about family history. Welcome, Will.
Thank you.
Okay, will you introduce yourself and tell us about who you are, where you were you born at home in a hospital, and if you know what your name means.
Mm, okay. So I'm going to introduce myself in this way.
Hmm.
My name is William Edward Blackwell II, son of William Frederick Blackwell, son of William Edward Blackwell, son of James Al G. Blackwell, son of James Blackwell II, son of Jenny, daughter of Tony, son of Jam, son of Old Jim, son of Lucy, daughter of Tab, daughter of Amah, who is a daughter of the Soneke tribe of the Sise and the Silla clans. My name, I never got a meaning to it, um, other than the fact that it's a family name because our names are redundant. As I just stated, it's a lot of Jims, a lot of Williams. So I was never given a meaning to my name. But I was born in Emporia, Virginia, in the hospital, and I was raised in Alberta, Virginia.
What is your earliest childhood memory?
Mm. I have a very good memory, so I can remember my mom patting me to sleep when I was a little baby.
Really?
I can remember when I first started walking. I remember the dresser that I have downstairs in my house is the same dresser I had when I was a little boy. My parents would have friends over, and you know how it is. Your children are entertainment. So when I started walking, they wanted me to walk in front of everybody to show me off, but I would be shy. So I remember crawling in the other room and going in their bedroom and climbing up, like standing up on the dresser and walking from the dresser to their bed and then back.
How old were you then?
I have no idea. I know I was real young,
A toddler?
real young. I remember a toddler. I remember when I was a baby. I
Mhm.
remember when I was a toddler. I remember a lot of things when I was young, just because I guess my imagination and everything was so vivid that it was plenty to latch on to.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, what did, as when you were growing up, well, first, why don't you, okay, you gave us your lineage from yourself to your African ancestors. But tell me, who are your parents and your grandparents? The names of them and where did they live and did they migrate?
Excuse me. So on my father's side, um, my grandmother's name is Mary Betty, and I got her in the picture right here behind me, and that's my aunt and my dad. And my dad's name, my grandfather's name is William Edward, and I was named after him. So when my father was born, he was junior because it was William and William. But then when I was born, because I had my grandfather's middle name, then I was the second. And my grandfather, he lived in different places. I believe North Carolina, and he moved up to Philadelphia for a while, and that's where he made transition. My grandmother, she moved to New York, and she lived there for a while, and that's where she eventually made transition. On my grandmother's side of the house, excuse me, on my mother's side of the house, my grandmother's name was Mittie Pearl, and my grandfather's name is George Bagley. And my grandmother is from the Stewarts and the Morgans, and of course my grandfather's from the Bagleys. And to my knowledge, they never migrated up north. But the story that my grandmother told me, with a little bit of research that I did, is that from her lineage, they came from the North Carolina reservation the Cherokee Reservation in North Carolina.
Where,
So I
where,
have both
mm,
Native American indigenous ancestry as well as African ancestry.
yes, that's interesting.
And I'm still
In
working on my mother's side of the family.
okay. Where in North Carolina, the Cherokee Nation was the Cherokee Nation, do you know?
I'm forgetting the city that is nearby, but it's to the northwest central part of the state.
Okay. What were your summers like growing up, or what did you and your friends do when you were growing up?
Well, since I grew up in the sticks, we played out in the woods a lot,
You played
and
what?
I played out in the woods a lot.
Okay.
So I had a favorite stick always, and that was a multi-purpose tool. But when I got older, we moved from a yellow house on Red Oak Road in Alberta. Then we moved to Chestnut Road, and we lived in a mobile home there. And my dad cleared the land, and we just had that home that we lived there. Later on, we my summers were consisted of sports programs and Boy Scouts and 4-H camps. Our parents had a strong sense of community, and I felt like I grew up in a village because everyone knew everybody. For the most part, we looked out for each other, and there was so much connectivity. So we had a lot of different age demographic overlays because those sports programs, the summer camps, the 4-H camps, the Boy Scout, and everything else, we had younger children that was mentored by teenagers, that we had young adults, we had elders. So it was a large variety of people all congregating together, and I just had a sense of belonging. And I think it could be summarized in this one story when I was cutting up downtown Lawrenceville, Virginia. And I'm not going to say what I was doing. It wasn't too bad. But one of the ladies said, "Stop because you're embarrassing the community. And I know your mom's over there getting her hair done. I'm going to go tell her about it." So there was a lot of accountability.
Yeah.
And wherever you was at, that adult was in charge. There was no deviation. There was no miscommunication. We looked out for each other.
Yeah, that is true. I think growing up in the South is still a little different than growing up in the North. Did you have a favorite pet growing when you were growing up?
I think one of my favorite pets was White Toe. He was a collie mix, and he had white going down the middle of him, and he had white on his toes. And it was a debate between me, my middle sister Landa. We were on the same side, and my oldest sister Sandra was on a different side. We called him White Toe, and she called him White Foot. So one day we just put him in the yard, and then we called him in, and whoever he came to, that's the name he was going to keep. So he became White Toe.
Okay,
Yeah.
collie. It was a collie mix.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that was the only pet you had growing up as a child.
We had a good number of dogs,
You did. Okay,
but he was the one that was he stood out because he was the last one that I had.
okay.
And when my father moved to Broadnax, I had took him there with me. So he was the last dog that I had and the last one that I had with my dad. So after that, I didn't have any more pets. I was around 15, 16 at the time.
Okay. What was your favorite TV show or radio show?
Hmm. I don't know if it was a show. I think it probably was cartoons. Um, Funny enough, if I had to pick a show and I'm cheating,
Hmm.
but I gotta like break it up a little bit, I would say Soul Train. I would say Sanford and Son. I would say Good Times. I would say The Jeffersons. Um, it was a lot, and whatever was on TV, when we were allowed to watch it, we would watch it. It was a variety of things. Sometimes it was sneaking up to stay late to watch whatever was on TV late at night, just because he was rebellious.
And I was telling someone before you that I interviewed that when I had asked him that question, and it was, I think he chuckled a little bit because you watch whatever was on TV
Yes,
during
yes.
my era. You know, you had, I think, three channels. So
Mhm.
you watch what was there.
We had three channels, and Dad used to go on the pole and move the antenna around, and we would yell out of the door, "It's still snow! It's still snow!" until it clears up, and then he's in an awkward position, and he got to try to keep the antenna still so we can get reception. And on a good day, our neighbors had satellite, so we can see some of their TV, their channels as well.
Yeah, yeah. I remember the antennas on top of the houses.
Hmm.
Yes. What are some of your fondest memories of spending time with your grandparents? Well, I know that could not be a valid question because one
It's
was,
a valid question.
it is.
It's valid.
Okay. Okay.
Um, I never met my father's father. I've met my father's mother when I was young. I was 5, 6 at the time. She
Mm.
used to come down for the summers to my Uncle Louis' house. We had big cookouts. This picture behind me is from the cookout. I know it's not clear, but I remember that. I don't remember everybody, but I remember the feeling of family and everybody together. Some James Brown playing in the background or whatever was going on. That's my father's parents. Um, my grandfather, my mother's father, he made transition. I had to have been at least 10 or so. I may be wrong with that. I know it was around that age group because I wasn't too old. And he was the kind of person that was the old farmer man. So he was he was serious with us, a little bit playful with us, and it was a delineation between grown folk business and stuff that children can do.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we were there, it was a lot of grown folk business going on. So we were sent outside to play, and they had a cow pasture around them. So we would just be outside on the hills, playing in the dirt in the long driveway, or going down to the pond when we should had no business going down there. And my grandmother, my mom's mom, she was just a comedian, an unintentional comedian, and it was always fun. Everybody recognized her from driving school buses and the work she did when she was working at Red and White downtown Lawrenceville. So I remember the fact that they were present. I know that they had purpose in my parents' lives. I know that they were galvanizing forces to hold the family together. I don't have too many outside of my mom's mom, like core memories with them,
Mhm.
just because I was so young.
Okay.
Even though I got vivid memories, but those are more so memories around the household.
Okay. Okay. Where did you go to school? Where did you go to high school and elementary school and high school in Brunswick County?
In Brunswick County, I went to Red Oak Elementary.
Okay.
Then I went to James Solomon Russell Middle School. No, they called it junior high at the time, I believe. Then I went to the Brunswick Senior High School. And because my parents split around that time I was in high school, I sort of ping pong backwards and forth between Nottoway and Brunswick, and I ended up graduating from Nottoway
Okay. So your parents separated when you were in high school, junior, or
when I was 12,
okay.
and I stayed with a family friend for a while. I stayed with my father for a while, and when I stayed with my father, I was still in junior high. And what he would do, he was in Broadnax County, so he was in Emporia. So what I'm sorry, he was in South Hill. So what I would do, he would do is drive me to the state line, or to the boundary, and it was a white family. And I only mention that because of the fact that every morning when he dropped me off, we would be watching the Dukes of Hazzard before the school bus would come. And that was fun.
So he would, where would he drop you off at the border?
At their
You
house.
two can't at their house.
Yes.
Okay. And and then they did what with you?
The bus came and picked us up.
Oh, the
That was
bus
that was
picked
the
you up
very
from
last.
there.
Yes,
Okay.
that was the very last bus stop.
Okay. And then in the after school was over, you
Yes.
repeated. Yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. So then tell me what after you graduated high school, you went into the military? Did you?
Directly after high school.
Was
The on
that?
my graduation date, the recruiter came to my house, and
Mhm.
I'm sorry. He came to my graduation. He said, "So you ready to go to boot camp?" I said, "I'll be ready in August." He said, "No, in 2 days." And I thought about Blackstone, where I was living at, and I was just ready to go. I said, "I'll be ready in 2 days." So in 2 days, I was off to boot camp.
So was that thought in your mind before that?
Was what I thought.
You had already signed up or something, or someone?
Yes,
Okay, I thought
yes.
someone just appeared and said,
No,
okay, okay,
it was maybe 3 months or so. I was in a delayed entry program.
okay, okay, okay. So while you were growing up, did I ask you if you had a favorite song? No, it was
You
too
did not.
no.
Um,
And you said Soul
it,
Train.
yes, everything was so situational. I don't think it was one thing that fits all occasions because music for me is very utilitarian. Even when I was little, if I'm working, if I'm washing dishes, if I'm doing what have you, then
Hmm.
there's a certain type of song I want to hear. But when you ask the question, the first song that came to my mind was "Silent Night" by the Temptations.
Okay.
Hmm.
Why that one? Was it so special?
Childhood memories.
Okay.
Childhood
I
memories.
thought it was maybe because you love Christmas.
Christmas was good. Our parents were good to us during
Oh,
that time frame,
okay.
and um, it's a lot of other memories tied to that particular holiday and that time of the year. But that was just the first random song that came to me that
Hmm.
I liked from my childhood. I'm quite sure there were many of them. And then if you say like which age or which phase of my childhood, I probably have a different thing. But that song permeated throughout my whole childhood.
Okay. When you were growing up, what did you want to be? And then after you answer that, then you can say, what career you chose and where you are now, what you're doing now.
I think I'm gonna answer the question a different way.
Okay.
I had no idea what I wanted to be, but when I was around 10 years old, I remember laying in my parents' bed and telling myself two things: that I want to break the generational curses of our family. I read a lot when I was young, so don't tell me why I knew about generational curses
Right.
at 10 years old. And I had a feeling that I was going to be in front of people. In what capacity, I have no idea. So I just started to read and I started to study more and I started to be around more people. I still was a little child that was cutting up and doing things, but I always had some sense of purpose. And everybody always looked at me as an old soul, and they looked at me as somebody that was going to actually do something. When
Okay.
I was with my peers, and when I was a teenager, they would tell me, "You can't go with us. You got to go back home." Or they would try to protect me from certain things.
Okay.
And even some of the adults would say certain things to me that was sort of protecting me. So that reinforced that inner feeling that I had that I was going to do something. And what drove me to doing what I'm doing now is the thought that I didn't want to work in a dead end job in Blackstone, Virginia.
Right.
I didn't want to end up working in the prison system, and I didn't want to be on the wrong side of the law. So I ended up talking to the recruiters because I was in NJROTC, the Naval Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps. So I talked to the Navy recruiter, and he was going to come to my house that day. I think it was a Thursday. He was going to come to my house at 6 o'clock. A little bit after that, the Marine recruiter called me, and I told him I can't talk to you because the Navy recruiter's coming. So he said, "What time he's coming?" I said 6 o'clock. He said, "I'll be there at 5:30." So the Marine Corps recruiter came, and the Navy recruiter never came. And I wanted to be a Marine because my father was a Marine, my uncle was a Marine, and I believe a few of my other relatives were as well. When I ended up going through the entire MOS military occupational field, when I went through that manual to see what kind of job I wanted to have, I got bored and I had good enough scores, and I said I'll just be infantry. So I went home and told my dad, who drove Amtrak's, and he had to deal with the grunts all the time. And he's like, "No, you too smart for that. Bring that recruiter to my house, and we're going to pick a job for you that you really should be doing." So my dad saved me because otherwise I would have been doing a job that was probably wouldn't have retained me in the Marine Corps and wouldn't have allowed me to stay as active as I was to get a retirement.
So, what is your career now? Now, because
So
you're no
I
longer in the military, correct?
correct.
Okay.
I did 9 years of active duty, and then I took a civilian job with the Marine Corps, which I still have today. And I came back in the Marines as a reservist, and I ended up doing 21 years in the Marine Corps as active duty and reserve, and I retired from the Marine Corps Reserves, and now I'm still a civilian Marine, work with the Marine Corps.
Tell me about a time when life was hard.
It'll probably be easier telling you a time when life wasn't hard.
Okay. Well,
Um,
tell me about a time then when you felt appreciated.
um, I'll answer both of them.
Okay.
I'll answer both. Um, I'm going to answer them in reverse though, because I don't want to have too much of a pause. So, one specific time when I felt appreciated. This was during the Millions More movement. This was 2010, I believe it was. This was the anniversary of the Million Man March.
Okay.
So when I was there, it was a lot of things going on in my life. It was a lot of contention points, and I went with a group of friends in the community, and we were trying to put together organizations in Norfolk, Virginia, to service the community. So we were doing a lot of work in the community and organizing. And when I was there, I remember Erica Badu was on the stage and she was singing, and I got a phone call. The
Mhm.
phone call was from my former wife, and everybody was there on the phone call,
Mhm.
and they were telling me about how proud they were of me. And with everything that was going on in my life at the time, so many things compounding, just that one simple phone call gave me a deep sense of appreciation that the things I was doing wasn't going in vain. And I'll tell you a story about, and this is giving flowers a little bit. So when I first came in the Marine Corps, I was at E3. Well, this is not when I first came to the Marine Corps, but me and my former wife, when we first moved in together, and we were in Jacksonville, North Carolina. She worked at Walmart. Our money wasn't that great at the time. I was living off base without having any kind of additional benefits, so I was just off of my E3 paycheck. And there were times when it was very thin, so maybe she would eat a pack of nabs at night, and maybe whatever canned food we had, I would eat that because of all the physical demands that I had. So just having relationships with people, prioritize what was important, and try to make sure that we all could get through to make it through.
Now let's back up a little bit. Tell me. Or go back to a favorite time in your childhood. What do you see, smell, feel? Where was it?
I'll tell you about my favorite place. My favorite place is in Broadnax, Virginia,
Mhm.
where my father lived at. It was a dirt road that you go off of another dirt road, and you go off of another hunting road. And if you didn't have a 4-wheel drive or walking, you wasn't gonna make it back out. It was deep in the woods, a lot of puddles and things of that nature on that particular road. And in the middle of the woods, it was a big opening, and in the middle of that opening was a pond, and it was a very picturesque scene. Um, it was a smell of the leaves, the pine tags, the birds, the squirrels rustling through the leaves. It was the serenity of just the wind blowing, with no other human voices, no noises, just the serenity of nature.
Sounds like tranquility. I remember years ago when I was still living on the farm, and there was deep in the woods an opening. It was just fields of tobacco, you
Mm,
know, but it was really very serene, very serene.
mm. One other scene from my childhood is right across the street from us, down the road, two houses, was the Owens who lived there. And in front of their yard, they had a lot of pine trees, just a row of pine trees. So us as children, we used to go in the pine trees, and we would rake the pine tags, and make roads and houses, and we would park our bikes in the driveways that we made, and those would be our houses. I had my Ferrari Testarossa,
Oh
which
my.
was my mountain bike, and my sisters and my neighbors. We would have our own cars and houses inside of that particular set of trees, and the imagination was so immense because our toy was outside.
With
Just
nature,
go outside.
nature. Yeah, yeah. What is the oldest thing you own?
The oldest thing I own is, you may not be able to see it, but it's a dictionary over there behind that drum. It's from the 1800s. That's the oldest thing I could think of that I
Is
own.
it an heirloom?
I bought it at a flea market.
Or you bought, okay, so it's
The
someone.
oldest,
Okay,
the oldest thing that I own, excuse me, is my parents' dresser from when I was a little boy. I
okay.
think that's the oldest thing I could think of that I own. Oh, I apologize. Right here, those bricks. Those bricks are from
Oh,
the early 1800s in Lunenburg County. There was the first brick house that was built in Lunenburg County. Those bricks was built by and were made by enslaved people, and they were used to build that house. And there was some residue bricks when I was going around talking to different landowners in Lunenburg. They gave me those three bricks. There's another one that I have in the house somewhere else.
oh, interesting. So that is from a plantation home. They're from
Yes,
plantation.
yes. And what I was told was, I can't guarantee you that these bricks were made by your ancestors, but your ancestors were alive when they made these bricks.
Okay,
Your enslaved ancestors, rather.
okay. Do you have an interesting story that you heard about someone that you can share? Someone in your family?
An interesting story about someone in my family.
Yeah, maybe you've heard someone say something about someone when you were a kid, like Mr. John shot someone and ran away to the next state.
Mm,
If you don't have anything.
I don't have too many stories
Well, what's the
outside of.
most interesting story you've heard about an ancestor?
I gotta think about that for a moment
Okay,
because
okay.
um, the first thing that comes to my mind really is a story that you were present for after Connecticut reunion when we stopped in New Jersey. I'm sorry, when we stopped in Philadelphia.
Oh, start it over again. I missed something.
The story that you were present for,
Okay.
because when we were coming back from the Connecticut reunion and
Okay.
we stopped in Philly and we were
Yes.
told all those stories about my grandfather.
Yes.
Um, I know those stories and they resonate vividly in my mind, but I don't think I want to share those.
Okay.
But that's what come to my mind.
Okay. That's good enough. Okay. Well, I know you are a genealogist for the Blackwell Family Association, Blackwell Family Reunion. You want to talk a little bit about that history and um, because I know you are not piggybacking, but you are picking up from where Thelma left off, or going back further than Thelma was able to go back to. So, you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing and why you're doing it?
Yes. So it started just because of the nature of the work that I do. It requires receipts. So through reading her book, I wanted to just read the books that she read. I wanted to see the documents that she saw. And I wanted to retrace some of her research so that I can know it, because I know things through doing them. Because if I read a book, that's one thing.
Mhm.
But in my world travels, I realize that when you go to a place, then you get a deeper sense of what it is that you're studying.
Mhm.
So in doing that, I think I started out going to the Library of Virginia. And when I got there, I saw some documents that were very moving to me. When I saw Robert Blackwell's will from 1750, I was moved so deeply that I texted you about it, and you gave me some advice to take my time in doing this research. Don't allow myself to get overwhelmed. And going to Lunenburg County Courthouse and just having conversations with the archivist, getting records from there, going to Hanover County Library and Courthouse, getting documents there, and talking to the people, traveling through the whole region, trying to figure out information about the slave ship. Even when I was in Africa and in Ghana at the slave castles. This is prior to any inclination of doing genealogy, but that was part of it because I felt a deep connection with our ancestors while I was in those female slave dungeons, and when I came out of them, I felt connection to them, and that sense of connection just drove me to dig deeper, to know, to research, to get a wider perspective, and then my desire to want to go deeper into what happened on the continent of Africa. And I know that Cousin Thelma did a lot of that work, and I see some of it documented in her book. But the same way I dug deep into everything in Virginia, and I retraced all of those steps. I talked to the professors in the universities and tried to get educated. I want to do the same thing going back to Africa and get deeper in that.
Mhm.
So while going to the cemetery in Cambridge, Virginia, I was talking to Rich, and he was guiding me through how to do it, how to get there,
Mhm.
and just giving me a little bit of not necessarily encouragement, but just some orientation on things. And he was trying to put together certain presentations, and then he made transition. And after he made transition, a lot of people looked towards me to carry on the work that he was doing and that our predecessors have done. So because I was entrenched in just doing the work for no reason other than the fact that I wanted to do it, um, I was appointed to be the historian genealogist to continue to do the work. And there are pieces to that because you have actual genealogy that we're trying to put together our family linkages from the past and present, because genealogy just doesn't go backwards, it also goes forward. All of the children that are continuing to be born, all of the family links that we are discovering, all of that is very important. And I'm blessed to have um, other members on our Blackwell Family Historical Preservation Committee that we can work together in unison to make that happen.
I have not shared um, on um, connections the history of the Blackwell family of Virginia. You may want to talk about that some, how far it goes back and where how it was traced back. It, just talk clearly about it, just to give people a sense of what has been researched.
Okay. So, in the words of Ms. Ezel, one of my public speaking teachers, according to my research, um, in 1735, there was a slave ship, the Doddington, that disembarked the Gold Coast of Africa. That ship disembarked in the York River in 1735. According to our oral traditions and the researcher cousin Thelma Doswell, two of our ancestors, Amar and Tab, were on that ship. The name Amar or Amar, the spelling may deviate a little bit, but the way that I use the word is AMA because it means a female that was born on a Saturday for the Ashanti. So I use that word. AMAR, according to all of my research, is an Arabic name, which can also be that because they were Muslim, according to the religion of the time, but it means a Muslim slave girl. So I didn't want to use that name. I would rather use a name that was more associated to Africa, to the actual indigenous Africans. So I use AMA to designate her. And they were bought by James Blackwell in Hanover County. I have documentation on James Blackwell and his family and all of the descendants that sort of coalesce in that area and how it came to be because there's nothing without foreshadowing, there's nothing without what came before it. So there were Crawshaws, there were Goodwins, there were Davises, there were Grahams, and there were the Blackwells. Those are the ones, according to the documents that I see linked together, because they intermarried and they had business ties and they bought land and sold land together. And that land that's in Blackwell was Blackwell Neck was Pamunkey Neck. And according to the history after the Bacon's Rebellion, they took the land from the Pamunkey Indians. And a few years after that, in 1701, um, Robert Blackwell purchased that land. And then James Glenn Blackwell inherited that land. And that's the land where Amon and Tab were first enslaved at. Then for the southeastern expansion, where the governor wanted to expand the state of Virginia and have everybody populated, Robert Blackwell. This is the same Robert Blackwell that bought the land. This is like his great nephew. He moved out to Lunenburg County, and in between that movement, in between that time frame, I don't have the details as far as when his wife actually moved with him, but his wife Elizabeth Goodwin moved with him to Lunenburg County. She took Amy and Jim, who I mentioned in my lineage, and Robert took Adolfo and Tab. So Tab was a daughter on the slave ship. Amar was a mother, and they got separated at that point. Um, Tab married Adolfo, and that was the beginning of our lineage in Lunenburg County. That was the beginning of a lineage that goes down throughout the history in the Virginia colony. And then that lineage goes all the way to post enslavement and on.
Okay. So now, also the Blackwell Family Association, they have reunions annually. Do you want to talk some about that and the family trees?
Yes. So there were there's a few pieces. Excuse me. One of the pieces was the actual Blackwell family reunion, and please jump in if I'm misquoting a little bit. I believe it was about 1955 or so.
52.
Thank you. Um, where the family gathered, and he said that they sort of like how we are now. If we only see families doing funerals, or we see family doing some time of a hardship, and they wanted to gather, and they formed the Blackwell Family Club, and that sort of matured into the Blackwell Family Association when they started to formalize it, and they started to make sure that they can maintain it. And in that, cousin Thelma Doswell was curious after one of the reunions because she's seen a lot of people, but she didn't recognize all of the faces. So her mom took her to her grandmother's house, and when she was there, she told her the story about her, I don't know how many greats, but grandfather Hammett and his two wives and his 24 children. And from there, she started doing research, and all of the things I said I was doing by going to the libraries, the courthouses, and getting marriage certificates, records over top of records. She ended up compiling a list of names, and she put together the first um, family tree that's in the Library of Congress, and that one had approximately 1,500 names on it, and it went back to 1755. The second tree she ended up putting together was, and that first tree, she debuted that tree in Blackstone, Virginia, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And the second tree is in the Richard Lewis African American Museum in Baltimore, Maryland. The third tree, which was her latest one, which was done in, was that 1990?
91.
Okay, 91. That one is in the
Virginia Museum of
mhm.
History and Culture.
And that tree has approximately 5,000 names on it. Um, that was, um, I guess, very key to us really being able to solidify a much larger family reunion because the ties aren't just between just one grandparent or a great grandparent. Is spread out wide. So those wide branches allow for more national and even sometimes international body of family to come together to form the reunion. And I think in large part due to that research and those family trees, it spawned the growth of our family reunion. And we've been having an annual family reunion every year since then. And this year will be our 74th annual.
Well, that was very, very well. A lot of it, a lot of the information you shared, I wasn't aware of. So excellent interview. Thank you so much. Is there anything you
Thank you.
want to share that you did not have not shared?
I would like to share how I first met you and the family,
Oh,
and that was through my aunt Peaches. So Zelma Blackwell, she made transition last year.
yeah.
She reached out to me on a phone conversation, and we had a good conversation. She said, "Come to my house this weekend," and I drove to her house in Raleigh, I believe, where she was living at the time, North Carolina. I got there, and she blew my mind because until I met her in about 2010 or so, I I never seen a picture of my grandfather, the man I got my name from. I never knew anything about him. I knew nothing about this deep history of the Blackwell family. I only knew that my grandmother was a little Indian girl, and she came from the Cherokee Reservation in North Carolina. So I knew that part of my history, but I had no clue
That was
of everything that I just said.
your maternal side.
Yes.
Okay.
Say, I'm sorry. Say that again.
You said you're talking about your maternal side now, right?
Yes, my
Okay.
maternal side. So I knew my maternal side, but my paternal side, I had zero information on.
Okay. Got
And my aunt Peaches started to give me information. She gave me my father's funeral flag, and she started to introduce me to you and to other family members.
it.
I got a chance to see my father's name on the family trees. I started going to the reunions. I started getting involved with the Blackwell Family Association, and none of that would have been possible if it wasn't for my aunt Peaches. And she wrote a very dense, intense genealogy book
Yes.
that I'm still studying, and she was a very pivotal part in my life and just put me on a different trajectory altogether. So I have to give her her flowers.
Well, thank you, Will. I appreciate your time. And to my connection viewers, thank you for joining us this evening. And I will see you in the next episode.
All right, thanks, Joe.